मेरे सामने 5 स्टार होटल है मोबाइल बंद कर देने मांगी गई क्या गया लगता लगे
Good morning. MSME sector is one of many employers. The industry has significantly created job possibilities in the nation's rural and outlying regions. Udayam platform reports more than 90 lakh people working in MSME sector as of 2022, and 48% of nation's exports come from MSMEs. Being the driver of the nation's growth and development, MSMEs have a lot of untapped potential, a lot of opportunities, a lot of lucrative avenues which can take an ambitious and a driven person a long, long way. To discuss this topic of career opportunities, we are joined today by a wonderful panel put together by the students of IIM Amritsar.
I invite Professor Ravi Shankar Venkatakomu, Assistant Professor, OBHR area, to kindly come up on stage as the moderator of this illustrious panel. Sir, please. I now invite Mr. Gaikwad, MD and CEO, Receivers Exchange of India Limited, to kindly take the stage. Mr. Gaikwad has been the Director and Head Global Corporates, Trade and Working Capital of India of Barclays, and his expertise will be invaluable to the panel. I invite our next panelist, Mr. Avinash Chandra, Head GTM MSME, Spice Money, onto the stage. Sir, please. Mr. Chandra holds a PG in Business Management, Certified System Engineer, and has corporate experience of over 18 years in MSMEs and related fields. Our next panelist, Mr. Prakalp M. Jain, is the Director, Ethology Consultant Private Limited. His larger vision for MSME empowerment can be testified by the initiatives he's taken for MSME upliftment, upskilling, etc., like the co-founding of Inclusive Growth Foundation. So please. I now invite Mr. Mukesh Jagmani, Founder and Managing Partner, Maniguru Finserv, onto the stage. So please. He is currently mentoring 11 startups in individual capacity, and his company manages 200 plus MSMEs, helping them to be financially independent. I now invite Dr. Ashwati Ashoka Najita, Chairperson ICMM 2023, the panelist. Now, request Professor Ravi Shankar Komu to kindly take the discussion forward on the topic career and entrepreneurial opportunities in the MSME sector. So please.
Thank you, gentlemen, for agreeing to be a part of this panel. We've, over the last 2 days, especially throughout various tracks yesterday, largely focused on the policy aspects of MSMEs. We've talked at length, we've heard various speakers talk at length about what the government is doing, what the government has done better in the last 5 years to encourage the proliferation of MSMEs or the growth of MSMEs or the success of MSME sector. And in fact, if I remember correctly, one of the panelists yesterday, Mr. Atish Kumar Singh, said the whole system has been designed in such a way today, or has been organized in such a way that we are waiting for an explosion to happen in the sector. There is, of course, the MSME sector is often looked at as, or India's push towards the MSME sector is often looked at in light of what is happening in China, and in light of China's rise as a manufacturing superpower, and we've always waited for the manufacturing sunrise to happen in India, and we're hoping that the MSME sector will take us there in the next 4 or 5 years, given the other infrastructure that the government seems to have put together, particularly the financial infrastructure. So, however, we are here today to discuss, and we are hoping to have an engaging conversation with all of you about what could be classified as talent management issues in the MSME sector. Of course, we've been billed as the panel on careers and entrepreneurship, right? Entrepreneurship as a career, and if that's and we are hoping to learn about the possibility of entrepreneurship as a career, given the context of MSMEs and the growth of MSMEs. And so, I request all of you, starting from Mr. Ketan to my left here, to take us through your journey with this sector, and to help us understand what talent management challenges the sector faces today, and what prospects it has in future, and where do you see the sector going in terms of access to talent, and in job creation, in terms of job creation. Please.
Thank you, and thank you to all, and especially thanks to the IIM Amritsar for holding a conference and dedicating it itself the whole discussions for the days only on MSMEs. So that's very important, look, just to give a little bit throwback that, look, India is going towards becoming a $5 trillion economy. So when you talk about $5 trillion economy, the MSME sector is going to play a huge role, because today, MSME contributes around 29% to 30% of Indian GDP. 50% of exports come from MSMEs. So if you have to take it to the $5 trillion economy, it's not going to come from the large corporates. It's going to come from the MSMEs. And that's rightly, targeted by the government. The government is on the right path, the central government, the right path, saying that we have to focus on MSMEs. So if I want to talk about my journey, then I'll tell you how it is working out. I've been an MNC banker, corporate banker. In fact, I worked in Standard Chartered Bank, Barclays Bank, Bank of Tokyo, and then the last journey was Barclays Bank, and from there I joined RXL, the Civil Exchange India Limited, as an MSME, as the MD and CEO. But all across, I've been handling the largest corporates. When you talk about Standard Chartered Bank, or when you talk about Barclays Bank, we were handling the largest corporates in India, or the global corporates. And it's this thing that we used to look at MSMEs as a pain when we used to work in the banking sector. This is my personal experience. But when I came across to the Receivables Exchange India Limited, that's a financing company, or that's a platform, it's a digital platform which does the financing for MSMEs receivables. The whole perspective has changed. The whole perspective has changed in the fact that, look, when you look at the MSME, the idea towards looking towards the MSMEs has changed. They're contributing so much to the economy, but they continue to be the largest ignored a lot. What happens is that the MSMEs are the people who are used as banks. I'm just going to the financial side. When they supply to the large corporates, they don't get the payments on time. They always are the mercy. So the large corporates of the government, even the government departments, which the government is also aware, that they use this MSMEs as a bank. They decide when they should supply the goods, and they also decide when they will make the payment, despite there being a contractual obligation that they have to pay it on time. So that is a fact. But our platform is something which is changing that. The government is pushing for that. Platform Trends platform is something which focuses on financing the MSMEs. So when you have a own MSME corporate, or the smallest corporate, when you supply to the large corporate, normally the payment doesn't come, it gets delayed. So it gets paid when they come on the platform, they get non-recourse receivables financing done. So this is how we're changing the world in our time. So when the transactions we were doing for 200 crores per month, now we're doing it around 2,500 crores per month. And the focus is much more. Now coming back to the talent management, that remains an important aspect. Look, what happens is, we are also an MSME. When we started in 2017, we were a team of 2 or 3 people. Now we're a team of around 128 people, 108 people, plus we are growing at a speedily. So we have grown almost 5 times. So my experience, the HR experience, the talent is very important. The team is very important. The team is the core team. The team which delivers and which believes in the passion. And the passion is required. And how the passion comes in? The passion comes from the top. The passion is delivered. So there you require people. And in the last 2-3 years, what has happened is with the COVID, the talent management has become an important aspect, because earlier we used to have talent which was available. But during the COVID times, suddenly the job market went up like anything, because you had the requirement in the IT sector to such an extent that people would take the job, they would not turn up after 3 months. On the last day of joining, they would say that, look, I've got an offer from the other. But that is certainly changing. And now you also see the attrition also coming in. So that cycle is gone now. Again, it's on the rise. So my belief is that the talent management is very important. And in the HR also, that it's very important to spot the right talent. So when you are an MSME, it's very important to hire the right talent. HR has to ensure that you retain the talent. Retention management is also very important. So it's very important that, look, when you as an employee also want to join, when you as a MBA students want to join, you should feel that what is the company doing? You should not look after the salaries. That is the whole thing. Look, when people join the company, they look at the high salaries. My advice, I always tell when I come and when people, actually I make it a point to meet each and every candidate before I selected. So when I come and when I tell them that, look, even if you're getting a job somewhere better, because people go for brands, people go for high salaries, and people say, look, if I join HDFC Bank, I'm just going to give an example, that if I join this particular bank or this particular thing, I'm going to do. I say, look, if you're joining there, what is the kind of exposure you're getting? If you're getting the right kind of exposure in the shortest period of time, don't look at the money. And that is one of the mistakes even many management institute students do. Since I'm talking to all you guys, when you look at it, what is driving that company? How is that company, I'm going to get the exposure, am I going to get the right exposure? Which is a team which is going to look after me? How am I going to do that? Because I have worked in MNC institutions, I know what happens when a management trainees join. And we, in fact, for the internship also, we ensure that the management students get the right kind of exposure, rather than doing some, Excel sheets and printing and PPTs and all that. But over a period of time, these are the guys who are going to go and talk to their institutions about our organization. So it's very important for you also, when you select the job, you have to ensure that what is the kind of job you're going to do. It's better to ensure that, when you are in a small organization, you can get more exposure rather than being a bigger organization and being a part of a small department somewhere over there. I will come back to that. You talk.
Right, Mr. Nash.
Thank you. So I'm pretty glad visiting to different college campuses keeps me a student, and that has helped me big time across my career. I'm staying in this hotel itself on the 8th floor, and in the morning I just looked out of the window and correlated that is that what the MSME of this country is perceived as. Since I was on 8th floor, every building, most of the buildings, most of the houses looked pretty small to me, right? Right across I could see brand factory also. But have you ever wondered that the products those are being sold in that brand factory are manufactured by the MSMEs itself? So to me as a professional, one of the pains of this country has been how we look at MSME. Amongst all the problems, all the concerns, that's one. Second, for me, MSME has always been glass full, and I have never debated with my own self or with anyone else outside in the industry. Glass full of opportunities, wisdom, perseverance, outlook, competition, lack of resources, full of lack of banking support, full of lack of talent, and full of so many things. But let me tell you, I felt delighted when Jasdeep reached out to me and I told him that I will respond in a day or two. And first question that I threw to him was, what is the subject line? And the moment he shared the subject line, I was floored. I was happy. I was sad. Sad why? It was winter of 2005 when I was representing a global powerhouse in India in a very small district of Maharashtra, Jalna, talking about the services of my then companies, talking big, talking how my company can enable them reach to different markets of the world, which is true, of course. But one of the entrepreneurs from the house stood up and said, Avinash, all these thoughts are fine. You know where we get stuck? We don't get people. We don't get people to implement all these things. Cutting short, he called me for lunch and I joined from a Fortune 500 company to a 2.5 crore company MSME. So I'm glad that I fit the shoes of this topic very well. I spent just 7 months there, but today I think I can understand the pain of MSME because of those 7 months. That is the base that I wanted to share with you. Now coming to the point that you said talent management or talent. Is it about just MSME? It's about the genesis of our society. It's about the DNA of our society. Would many of us give our daughters to a guy working with an MSME? That's what happened with me. I was working with Dun & Bradstreet and my marriage was, fixed. And here I was with an MSME. I asked the girl, and my brother-in-law was a big shot, a dual qualified guy. I asked my dad, how come a person, a bureaucrat, reaching out to you, whose son is working with an MSME, that too in Jalna, not leaving Mumbai, what's the problem? Is there something wrong with the girl? So that's the perception we have created, and this perception goes on bigger. If I tell you that I work with Big Four, with the same experience, with the same dress, with the same mic in hand, you'll be very happy. But had I had told you that I work with XYZ Private Limited in the hinterland of Ludhiana with a company manufacturing cycle spoke, would you be okay? So it's more of perception. The MSME game in this country is of perception. Right? And as Sir said, it's our right to justify our slots that we do during student life, and it's our right to dream that yes, my CTC should be this much. But then what about our duties? A society cannot flourish with the imbalance of rights and duties. So my sincere and humble sharing submission to the leading students here would be to do away with your perception. There are beautiful companies. Now, if I say large corporate in this country, say 8 years back, and any name that has come in your mind, I have served them. Any name that has come in your mind, I can be that sure. But the joy, the happiness, when I serve an MSME, and when they say my number for decades together, I feel empowered. So it is got to do with the perception. We have a Naukri.com. That was the only survivor out of the .com bubble that happened. I feel pity that, do we have a Naukri.com for MSME? 99.3% of MSME. Less than 0.7% of mid-corporate, large corporate banking, NBFCs, multinationals, and you have tens of job portals. What about MSMEs? I am glad Government of India has taken one initiative to build a portal like this, which will enable MSMEs to have talent. Now, when we talk of MSMEs, most of the platforms, I am glad, I am so very thankful to you guys. I have seen here MSMEs. What we speak, SME. We leave the 97% of the constituents that is micro. Now, I won't expect you guys to join a micro, but I would be very happy if you join small or medium enterprise. And let me tell you, the satisfaction level would be way higher. So, just taking one more example and letting two of my co-panelists talk to you. So when I joined this company in Jalna, I joined as an export manager. And that company was exporting to Uganda, Nigeria, Libya. So I asked my CEO, so what is the main theme of sending to these countries? Why aren't we exploring the big boys? And he said, Avinash, we don't have banking support. We are a very small company. They would better buy from companies in Mumbai and Thane. And trust me, in next 4 months, we rewrote the history of that MSME. And couple of buyers who came, and I used to tell my CEO, I used to text from Aurangabad airport, that 1 hour journey to Jalna, I used to text to my CEOs that these guys have come with serious business. Let's not bargain much. Let's close it here today during this trip only. And those were those LCs and banks being too heavily depending on domestic lending rather than export financing. I'm talking of 2007. So a couple of those buyers told me when I asked, what makes you come to Jalna leaving Mumbai and Thane, where there are 50 such companies? So one Australian buyer told me jokingly, no, I wanted to meet the person who wrote in the mail so much about my country market, which I was not aware of. So these are the opportunities in MSME segment. You have the element of surprise because you are perceived small, but when you perform, you become a Shubham Gill and they remember you for life. And that sets the tone for your career. So I would request you guys, don't ignore. Work with one, you can leave aside micro. If you start, you can start with a micro. But don't ignore this sector. You work in this sector for 2-3 years. And there are a lot of opportunities. One I said, information, data sciences, manufacturing we have had, food, in agri-business, in logistics. If you wouldn't manage, who would manage? You guys are seen as the epitome of management, right? So who would manage? 33% of our agri-produce goes waste because of supply chain problems, because of warehouse problems. I think you guys are better to think on this.
Mr. Prabhu.
Yeah, so I think the tone and the reference has been set. So I will just, bring about a few broad level data points so that we understand, when we talk of MSME, what kind of MSMEs and, what is the data mix. So if you go by the annual report that the Ministry of MSME publishes like almost every year, the last year report says, as in the March 2022 report says, they are roughly about 6 crore 33 lakh MSMEs in India, right? It excludes MSMEs or entities that are registered under the Companies Act and the other acts like LLPs and things like that. So there are like 6 crore 33 lakh MSMEs in India. 6 crore 30 lakhs are micro, right? That is the first data point that, when, as Avinash has said, that it is about perception. So this is the first data set. Second is roughly, if you see in India, about in between 19 lakh to 20 lakh companies and LLPs are there, which are incorporated, registered under their respective, statutory laws. Third point is, if you refer the same annual report, they say MSME put together, this 6 crore 33 lakh MSMEs employ roughly about 11 crore people, right? So that's another perspective that we can, get into and, debate about it and what is the share of micro and things like that. Now coming back to the point is that if you add this, if you try to build a matrix around this, so approximately 6 crore 33 lakh are the ones which are there formally registered, non-registered. Majority of them will be proprietorship, as we may assume that. Second point is about approximately 20 lakh companies and LLPs, right? The third data point, as I have told, 11 crore employment. And the fourth, we already have spoken about, is that, what kind of exports we are doing through MSMEs, what kind of opportunities are there, what percentage of GDP is being contributed. So that story is already there in the market. Now coming back to the point, and the theme of the session is, building opportunities or discussing opportunities around MSMEs. So one thing is, of course, MSMEs as manufacturer or as service providers have been there, they have been running the show, and the governments are also now seeing them as engines of growth. One thing that I particularly, because I am into consulting domain, I started my career with State Bank of India. I was into large corporate, so we used to fund all the large infra and non-infra projects of the nation, all AAA rated or Nifty 50 companies. Majority of them have been at least examined by banks like State Bank of India. And that ecosystem which we see for MSMEs, and if we compare them with the ecosystem that is there for the large corporates, then you will feel that, okay, despite not having any ecosystem at all, this is the level of performance that MSMEs have been able to show, right? So what I will encourage, or my message through this session would be, is every sector requires an ecosystem, right? The government is building or enhancing or doing a lot of stuff lately, but the hand-holding ecosystem in MSME has a huge potential, and that is where I see a lot of people from campuses like this getting into entrepreneurship to set up entities which can do, which can play their role in that ecosystem. So let's say, a lot of people ask that, okay, we want to get into MSME, how do we get into it? First is start something of your own, manufacture something, assist somebody doing contract manufacturing, all that is there. But if we really have to fast track the MSMEs towards, helping India in reaching the 5 trillion goal, we need a very, very strong ecosystem. So few examples or references I will set, and then we'll talk as to how it goes. One is that we need a huge ecosystem to facilitate financial resources get smoothly into MSMEs and come out from MSMEs. So there is a huge scope in building around things that can help MSMEs raising funds, as RXIL is doing, and I'll tell you, if you look at their number and the other platforms, that they have been doing, huge amount of working capital they have been able to unlock. And we must congratulate sir that, I think last what I read that RSIL has now been able to break even and get into the profitability aspect, and their quarterly disbursements are well over 5,000 crores now. So, this was something which was not existent in the market. So 5,000 crore का quarterly working capital unlock हो रहा है, right? Can you assume what kind of ripple effect it will have on the economy, on the MSME? So one, we need lot of enablers like this, right? So the government has set a theme, creates the platform is live. Now again there are some limitations because the platform requires one leg to be a large corporate, other leg can be MSME. We can think of platforms where both the transactions, the buyers, sellers are MSMEs, and how can we look at providing funds through discounting platforms like that. So one is financial enablers. Second, and something which is often neglected in that reference is compliance and certificate, right? We talk of HR. Generally, if you see a typical MSME doing turnover of approximately 50 to 60 crores will have, if it is a manufacturing setup, less than 100 employees. And most of them will be skilled or unskilled laborers working on daily wages and things like that. Compliances are almost non-existent in those MSMEs. There is nobody to guide them. People employing 200 to 50 kind of unskilled workforces don't even understand what is the license under the Factories Act. Where should I go? Who will help me in getting those licenses? So something around compliances and certifications, that's a huge scope, focused majorly on MSMEs. And third, of course, is as things are going digital, we see very few agencies focusing on hand-holding the MSMEs in going digital, either in marketing or operations, or we are seeing a lot of startups around. In fact, last week on Shark Tank India, as you have seen, people are building startups just to connect person through a mobile app so that they can know what kind of government schemes are there. Can you imagine that? Right? Forget about applying to those schemes or assisting somebody in getting subsidies and things like that. First, as you input your basic demographic details, the system will tell you that okay, you are potentially eligible to apply for so many schemes, right? So the government is doing their part of it, but the ecosystem lacks agencies which are there in the large corporates. So these three areas we can possibly dig deeper into as we go forward. One is financial enablers, second is of course compliances and certifications, and third is going digital. These are the areas, and I am sure as we go forward we will see many new startups also coming into this. And by the way, if you see the startups as a subset of MSMEs, they are less than 1 lakh or even lesser number registered startups in India, right? So when we see startups, they are a subset of MSME, but working for a startup is considered to be a fashion now. But working for an MSME, as Avinash has said, we need to change that perception, and we need to build around that enabling ecosystem for MSMEs. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. Let's put it okay. Yeah. So my name is Mukesh Jayapani. I run a company called Money Group in South, and I work with various brands like Times of India, Modi's Xerox, Birla Sun Life Insurance, ING Group, and one of the leading broking house. Finally, when I was working as vice president, I quit the job and I said, okay, that's more than enough for a corporate world to be working. And I started my own company, Money Group in South. So today we are on the mission that will progress to prosper 10,000 MSMEs, and currently we are handholding 200 plus MSMEs across India, and plus startups as well. So we are currently managing 11 startups. Primarily we are into SME IPO space as MSME consulting and startup consulting space. Having said that done, Abhi, all my three co-panelists, we just talked of all the MSME facts and data, which I am sure aap log ke paas bhi ye data facts available hoga, because it's all open, available in the public domain. We are a population of 135 crores. Do we really think, actually, whenever I go to universities and interact with students, I always ask one thing: do you really think that there's a shortage of talent? I don't say shortage of talent, it's a mindset जिसकी हमें प्रॉब्लम है. As you know, my co-analysis perception. मैं MSME में काम करूँगा तो लोग मेरे बारे में क्या सोचेंगे? मैं एक MNC ब्रांड के साथ एसोसिएट होऊंगा तो मेरी फैमिली, मेरी को सोसाइटी मेरे बारे में क्या सोचेगी? And that is where the mindset and perception we have about. Otherwise, I don't think so. IIM Amritsar के स्टूडेंट्स को टैलेंट की कोई कमी होनी चाहिए because you've been exposed to the best of the industries and the best of the environment आपको दिया जाता है. Your best of the faculties available with you. So I don't see after you complete your IIM course you would have any shortfall on the talent side. Now what happens is it is the perception, maybe the peer pressure from the society, from the family, that I should be working with top-notch brands because I have a tag of IIM with me. So, मैं IIM के बाद MSME में कैसे जाके job कर सकता हूँ? You know, that's the question that even students have to ask themselves. But then let me tell you, you know, everything you see, government has been putting and working round the clock. They're trying to bring every single thing for India in India. Look at the technology, look at the defense aspect, look at telecom, look at the new companies which are coming to India. You know, अभी तक आपने देखा होगा पिछले 5 साल में अगर आप देखोगे तो सबसे हाईएस्ट इंपोर्ट हम मोबाइल करते थे, अब सबसे हाईएस्ट एक्सपोर्ट हम मोबाइल करते हैं. So do you really think that we don't have opportunities in India? Okay. I was interacting in another forum where I asked, how many of you know Tata Motors? Yeah, everyone would have heard the name of Tata Motors. What do Tata Motors manufacture? Car. Okay. How many do you think Tata Motors would employ? But how many auto ancillaries units are working for Tata Motors? That is where the job opportunities are. But so don't just look at Tata Motors, but Tata Motors have more than 235 auto ancillary units who are manufacturing spare parts or the other thing for Tata Motors. And these 235 companies are under MSMEs. Okay, they are not large corporate, they are MSMEs and they are the ones who actually are looking for manpower because they have targets to supply to Tata Motors. Tata Motors would be one of their clients, they would have big other clients as well. So there's immense opportunities available for the MSME space. Recently everyone would have heard that we became the 5th largest economy, we overtook UK. And our government is planning, is working hard for India to become $5 trillion economy. Abhi sir ne opening statement mein bataya. Can you just imagine what happens when we become $5 trillion economy? It is the MSMEs who are going to contribute if India has to grow and if India has to become $5 trillion economy. It is not Reliance, Tatas and Ambanis who are going to contribute because वो अपने maximum level पे आके खड़े हैं, उनका output उतना grow नहीं करेगा जितना एक MSME और startup grow करेगा. That is why Government of India has built this entire ecosystem with the focus on MSMEs, startups, SME, and of course they are also working on the other unorganized sectors where they see immense potential, immense opportunities. बैंकिंग को कितनी सारी गाइडलाइंस दी जा रही हैं कि एमएसएमई को सपोर्ट करने के लिए. So when we say MSME, you know, there are immense opportunities. Even when IIM students are planning to start their own startup, I always insist कि पहले 2-3 साल 4 साल MSME में जाके काम करो. There you will learn lot many things because you will have lot of other departments जिनके साथ आप काम कर रहे होगे. There are 2 options, as sir said, you know, you go in a big brand, they give you one desk, so आप बड़े से department में एक छोटा सा role कर रहे हो. So that's one way of looking at life. The other way of looking at life it is कि I want to start my own startup, so go into MSME, learn every aspect in that industry, in that sector, how this industry has been running. You will learn lot many things. You will come to know what are the challenges actually faced by these MSMEs. And once you come out of that MSME and you plan to start your own startup, you would know what are the challenges which are being faced and you are mentally ready with those blocks. And I am sure if after that 3-4 years of experience when you start your own startup, the probability of your startup to become successful startup will also be much better than the fresher starting his own startup. Thank you.
Thank you. So, when I listen to all of you and having interacted with students as well, and having been a student myself or having spent a lot of time on campuses for a long time, the one aspect that comes to mind that I would like to know from all of you, do you think the risk appetite of prospective entrepreneurs or individuals who could have been entrepreneurs has increased thanks to whatever it is that the government is doing in the last 4 or 5 years? Do you think people are willing to take the risk, or the perceived risk, has it reduced thanks to, say, a platform like Threads or the aggregator platform that is being talked about now, or even some of the other initiatives that the government is taking? Is it reducing the perception of risk for the individual? Because largely what it appears, or at least what we talked about earlier, was that, say, 15 years ago, becoming an entrepreneur was considered a risky proposition, and hence the perception that it is not the best place to be. But I mean, we are a country, you could argue, I mean, we are a country which loves government jobs because we believe that we are risk averse, right? So, do you see any change in how people perceive risk? Do you see any change in risk itself thanks to what the government is doing? Yes, sir.
I have seen years in the MSME sector. So I'll just tell my experience about it. Just to add on to what you were saying, I just remember that, look, it's an advice that at one point of time I was also faced with a very challenge that whether to join a private sector bank or an MNC bank. And at that point of time I was working with an MNC bank. And now I'm sitting here, she can vouch for it, that at one point of time I got a job from a bank, private sector bank, which I just started, 5-6 years into the work, large bank today. And I did a mistake that I did not join because it was the perception that you are working in an MNC bank, what will my society say, what will the bank say, what will I think, what will I tell them that my boss, my husband is a manager in MNC bank or this bank. And today, after this 15, 20 years after precisely, the banks where I had not joined, the people have become the Robotis. And I am still an MNC banker, and that's what it is. So it is an experience. So that's a fact. And look, it's a very valid experience which is talked about. That look, when you want to join, you join a small MSME corporation, and then work towards, if you have a dream in your eyes. But today, what is happening is, today, there are a lot of startups which are coming in. Why? Because the valuation game. Everyone is thinking about how can I start up a company, and then how can I build up a value and this valuation game. The valuation bubble is bust, and they're very clearly saying that, look, the winter has set in for the funding now. And I was talking to my position, I end up talking to a lot of this PE ventures and PE funders who are there. There are many times these companies have come across and they've told that they want to invest in our company, and very clearly they have been told no, because I have been backed by some 5 powerful institutions like SIDBI, NSC, State Bank of India, ICMM Bank, they say we are not interested in getting in the MNC or PE. So the valuation, when I talk to the valuation companies, they say that valuation is just a game. 5 people in a room in Singapore decide that I will invest in this company at this rate. The 6th investor is also ready. After 6 months, he invested at a high valuation. That's how the game happens. And we have seen it how the bubbles burst. And today it's very important, and I can proudly say that you touched upon it, thanks to him and touched upon it, that we have turned profitable, and compared to the other exchanges, we have turned profitable. Why we have turned profitable? Because we have worked very efficiently. We have ensured that every cost is very important for us. Every money saved is spent is important. So I come back to the same question which is asking, is the risk, are people becoming, are we taking care of the risk? Are people taking more risks now? Yes, they are, because there is a lot of government support over there. Government wants the entrepreneurs to come forward. Government wants to support. When I come to the banks, there is a lot of pressure from the public sector banks, private sector banks, that they should be funding the MSMEs. We are backed by SIDBI. SIDBI also has many schemes over there. We see SIDBI financing for many things. So there are 3 schemes which are there. I was quite intrigued by the names which are given. It was Kishore, Shishu, and Yuva clothes. So Shishu is basically, micro. Yuva, I think Kishore is the middle one, the micro, right? No, the small. And the medium is the Yuva clothes. So these are the categories, and there is a force from the government that you should be lending. People are being asked questions, why you have not been lending to the people over there. So the ecosystem is there now. It's the right people, right kind of attitude, and right kind of things to do the tools. And I correctly said by him that, look, when we are talking about this $5 trillion economy, the focus, and I see it today. When I look at it, we are also building up an infrastructure. We look at ourselves as we are building up an infrastructure where the MSMEs can get the financing at a particular rate or whatever it is. This is a financial infrastructure that you're doing it digitally. We are also setting up a platform which is for the foreign exchange, for the exports discounting as well. But I see this, the government is looking, when you look at it from the larger picture, you see these are Lego pieces. The Lego pieces, if you start to fit in, they exactly make a correct picture that after 10 years, where India will be. And that's what is important, because there are so many schemes which are going on for Make in India, PLI. So where is the input going to come from? The input is going to come from the micro and MSMEs and the medium enterprises. So it's very important for us to ensure that we take the right kind of experience. I'm talking from the point of view that where do I see myself as an employee or an employer? Because first you will be an employee if you have the right thing, that look, you should be going and getting yourself trained in a small institute or a small organization to get the right kind of exposure. Because if you have an object in your mind that, look, I want to become an HDFC bank, or I want to become a Dixon company or something like that, you have to have that dream in your mind that this is where I want to reach. But can you reach it now? No, it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort goes over there. I have to start a startup? Yes, I have to start a startup. I need an experience? I need an experience. So you have to move forward. So when you look at it, there are so many schemes. So the risk, people are taking a risk. What people were taking a risk 10 years back or 5 years back is not anymore the same like that. They're taking increased risk because there is a support from the government. There is a support from the institutions. There is a support from many private equity institutions also who are saying that, look, the perspective towards India has absolutely changed. That India is going to lead and when I read reports also, look, India is going to lead the Asian economies towards the growth in the next 10 years. When I have a report by 2030 by Standard Chartered, it says very clearly that India is going to drive the export economy in the next 7-8 years.
Mr. Mukesh, if you have something.
Back what he said, तब और अब में क्या फर्क था when I was listening to him, So sometimes, today when I visit universities and campus, I feel lot of मतलब वो jealousy factor आ जाता है, because 30 साल पहले जब मैं graduation और post graduation कर रहा था, we never had this kind of sessions, we never had industry experts coming and talking to students. हमें तो बस वो किताबी knowledge दी जाती थी, even when I was doing my post graduation and all. At the most खाली during the year वो industrial visits होती थी for 1 month or 3 months. That was the only exposure that we used to add, and that was again a very limited exposure because वो companies वाले हमें एक corner में बिठा दिया करते थे, बोलते थे ओके आप finance domain में आए हो, आप ही accounts department में आके बैठ जाओ. The world is changing, yes. risk and there is appetite and the change, yes. Look at the campus today. Look at the kind of exposure that these students are getting today. You have been, the technology was not there. Mobile हमारे ज़माने में नहीं होता था. तब और अब में कितना फर्क है. Every single damn of information, piece of information is available with you on a click. So every single thing, public domain, there is so much of information. Thanks to Google, Baba, he's been throwing information like anything. Whatever you ask for Google, Google will give you that information. Important is not that. Important is what are you going to do with that information? So when I say world is changing, yes, the students that I see today, you are ready to take that risk. They are ready to experiment. They are ready to explore things. They are not in much hurry after post-graduation or after clearing of their exams. I see they taking a break of 3-4 months and they're trying to explore things, what they want to venture into, what they want to start into. So that's a good sign. That's how it's supposed to be. Don't just jump into anything that, oh, this is something that is looking good, let me jump into it. Never do that. But I see a lot of changes happening now. And I always tell you, if you want to change, you will have to be the change. And that is what I am seeing today with the top-notch B school students. Not only B schools, even the other top-notch institutes and universities where we've been going. So that is just because you get this industry, senior people coming from the industry, sharing their experience, sharing their entire journey of life. So that helps actually students to build their mindset, to change the perspective, to change the way you look at the world. So then definitely, and of course, a lot of other things are there to support you in terms of the ecosystem support. They are available. Incubation centers, startup cells, each state-wise they have their own facility centers. Center is being supporting. So today, आज से 50 साल 60 साल पहले हमें कहा जाता था कि इंडिया सोने की चिड़िया है. And I've been telling people, after Corona, the next 10 years are the golden 10 years of India. And today, whatever risk that you can take that risk, start your entrepreneurial journey or get into MSME, work there for 3-4 years and come back to your own startup. The next 10 years are the golden period which India will see. Thank you.
Yes, Mr. So I wish to add aspects to that. I have been a banker, but this question comes naturally to me because I've worked with a rating agency for good 8 years. So I cannot keep quiet when you talk of risk, right? You never see risk standalone. Risk is never used as a single word. It is always risk and return, right? So the answer in one word is yes, it has definitely gone down. And why? We can discuss on that. So because our country, we are such a huge consumer, anything and everything. Right from your smallest of household goods to a premier institutions like IIMs, right? We have enough of consumers in-house. So you being a service provider, you being a manufacturer, when you sit and calculate, you know that you have got a huge market to cater to. So that return, if things go good, those returns are there, number one. Number two, I wish to touch, nothing is foolproof. I'm sure you are aware of credit ratings a little bit. Even a AAA rated company, what is their risk weight assigned by credit rating agency? Just for your information, AAA is the best long-term rating. There, this rating says this company carries 20% of risk weight, despite being AAA, right? So when you sit down to calculate your risk as a professional, as an entrepreneur, you can't hold yourself back thinking इसमें इतना risk है. जो AAA है उसमें भी 20% का risk weight globally हम कहते हैं. So ये कम हुआ है और कम क्यों हुआ है? इस कंट्री में शायद आपको पता नहीं है कि सबसे बड़ा लेंडर कौन है. मेरे पास डेटा नहीं है, मेरे पास वो रिसर्च और इसका नहीं है, but the largest lenders in this country are kirana stores. वो जो उधार देते हैं, वो 1 महीने का उधार, the lending, all the lending banks put together is as much as that the kirana stores of this country lend. Second largest lender कौन है? MSME. And we have been discussing this for donkey years. That's why RXIL is doing so. And they will continue doing good. क्योंकि ये एरिया जो है, उस पर MSME बात नहीं करती है. They are okay. एक बड़ा बायर उसको टाइम पर पैसा नहीं दे रहा है, he is okay. अगला ऑर्डर तो मिलेगा. मार्केट से 20% पर पैसा ले रहा है, बट ही इज ओके, 4 महीने बाद देगा. ऑर्डर रिसीट पे लिखा हुआ है 90 डेज के बाद, बट वो फॉलो भी नहीं करता है 120 दिनों तक. बट वही एमएसएमई बैंक से बहुत नाराज रहता है कि मेरे को बैंक पैसा नहीं दी. बट वो अपना पैसा जो वो सब अपने बायर को उसने क्रेडिट दिया हुआ है 90 दिन का, 120 दिन हो गया, उस पर वो बात नहीं करता है. तो चूंकि रिस्क एपेटाइट है इसलिए बात नहीं करता है. उसको पता है कि ये रिटर्न हो जाएगा. सो द एश्योरेंस ऑफ रिटर्न इज हायर. दैट्स व्हाई द रिस्क इज लेसर. द मोमेंट दैट गोज हायर इट विल बी हायर. वहां अगर रिटर्न के इश्यूज ज्यादा बढ़ेंगे तो रिस्क यहां बढ़ जाएगा. बट द एमएसएमईज आर अवेयर दैट आई एम वर्किंग इन एन इकोसिस्टम. थैंक्स टू हिम दैट वी वर मिसिंग अ वेरी स्ट्रॉन्ग पॉइंट. ये रिस्क की वजह से, इकोसिस्टम की वजह से भी रिस्क घट रहा है अपने देश में. वी आर नाउ स्टार्टेड टॉकिंग. एक एमएसएमई का इकोसिस्टम बस 3 हुआ करता था एक जमाने में, जब मैंने शुरू किया था 2004-5 में सर. इट वाज सप्लायर, बायर और अ बैंकर. बट नाउ दे हैव स्टार्टेड नोइंग द वैल्यू ऑफ इकोसिस्टम. अब वो ब्रांच मैनेजर को जानने की कोशिश करता है. अब वो अपने कंसल्टेंट से ज्यादा स्ट्रांगली कनेक्टेड रहता है. अब उसके जो फील्ड्स नहीं है उसको भी वो एक्सप्लोर करने की कोशिश करता है. सो यस, डेफिनेटली द रिस्क परसेप्शन हैज आल्सो गॉन डाउन एंड इन टोटलिटी आल्सो इट हैज गॉन डाउन. बैंक बुक्स क्या बताएंगे, वो डिफरेंट एरिया ऑफ डिस्कशन है.
Yes, Mr. Prakalp.
I will just add on to it. See, when we speak of MSMEs and then we talk of the risk perception or the risk per se, coming down. One of the important thing is also to understand that over a period of time in a country like India, the laws are evolving. The lawmakers are acknowledging that okay, पुराने जितने एक्ट है उनको रिफॉर्म करो, बंद करो. One very small example, which we can relate to is हम लोग being MSME पैसा लेने जाएंगे तो कहाँ जाएंगे, right? तो there used to be a challenge सालों पहले कि बॉल मैं I am selling but I am selling in cash, right? Who will establish my revenues? So I will have a very limited access to lenders and most of them will be informal lenders. Coming in initiatives like GST, UPI and the willingness to adopt those changes. Now things are pretty much traceable, right? So one thing is that when you see the risk, you also see the redressal mechanisms, the mitigations that are in place. मैंने MNC को माल बेच दिया and if I am not able to realize my dues, where will I go? I will file a civil suit which will run for ages. वहाँ पर भी I will have to pay my lawyer's fee. Now there is a MSME Development Act, right? So if somebody doesn't willingly give you your dues, undisputed dues, you can go file a complaint in the Facilitation Council, and it's a very time-bound process. It can't go on and on and on for long. So there is a redressal mechanism. Now, second part, if I also want to know that my potential buyer, what is the kind of payment discipline that they follow, that information I can also go and access, provided if these are large companies and regular in filing, you can go and do a ROC search on them and they will fetch entire set of data that which are the large companies which have not been paying MSMEs on time, about 90 days का क्या dues है, कितना पुराना है, So redressal mechanisms are there, and once you have redressal mechanisms are there, Another thing is when we go to bank, especially in the MSME segment, because when I was in a bank, we were funding all very large infrastructure projects, and there were only contractual securities. There were no hard assets. Imagine, like, I'll try to connect it to this. One of the largest PPP infrastructure project is the upcoming Metro Rail in Hyderabad. And if you compare projects like this, Metro Rail, toll roads, what is the security? There is no security. Only contractual securities are there, that okay, I will develop this project, I have a right to collect revenues. Something goes wrong, you can shift this right to somebody else. But when MSME goes there, what is the asset? What is the collateral? How much you will pledge? How much you will mortgage? So this mindset now needs complete overhauling. And at various forums through the foundation that we run, that is the Inclusive Growth Foundation, we have been advocating completely collateral free lending till a certain limit to all the MSMEs, right? You see, if that happens, what is going to happen? See, if I want to set up a manufacturing unit, I'll go to bank, and I will have my own set of research, my project, I'll ask the bank to fund it. The bank will have the next question, typical question a bank will ask you, कि ये सब तो ठीक है, security क्या दोगे भाई? तो मैं तो अभी कॉलेज से निकला हूँ, I have financed my college fee also, तो मैं क्या, what security can you expect from me, right? So that ecosystem needs complete overhauling, where MSMEs to a certain extent, there are schemes, no doubt. Sir spoke about Mudra loan, Shishu Mudra loan, all those things, right? But we know how difficult, or how rationing is done in sanctioning such kind of loans. So once that happens, the risk of failure will also considerably come down, right? And it will work very flawlessly. Today also, when you take a collateral free loan, the government charges you a guarantee fees. It's like insurance premium, right? So when I work in a profile, there is an insurance cover with me. I know if something goes wrong, it will take care of me. If that happens, and I am sure in the very recent time it will happen, at least for the MSMEs, if that happens, you will see 5 trillion also, will be a smaller target to achieve, provided you empower them financially.
So just to add, risk to return. So, जहाँ risk है, वहाँ reward है. And the most important part is how do you classify your risk? So there are unknown risk, there are known risk, and there's a calculated risk. So I'm sure जब IIM students अपनी CAT की तैयारी कर रहे होंगे, तो उन्होंने सोचा होगा, उन्होंने भी अपना बैकअप प्लान बनाया होगा कि अगर मैं CAT पास हुआ, नहीं पास हुआ, मुझे IIM में अपनी पसंदीदा सिटी में मिली, एडमिशन नहीं मिली, तो उन्होंने भी अपना बैकअप प्लान बनाया होगा. Yeah. So same is when we look at risk, we also have our contingency plans. We have also plan B. We also have our backup plans, and that is where our role starts when we guide MSMEs के जो भी आप अपने orders ले रहे हो, you have some plans कि मुझे working capital मिलेगी, loan मिलेगी, नहीं मिलेगी तो मैं क्या करूँगा? So they always have those backup plans, and because if you have those backup plans with you, the risk appetite would always be much better, a little larger. Then what if I am going for an unknown risk? Unknown risk is like you're gambling with your business or with your life. So avoid that. But if you have looked at your known risk, calculated risk, that's the way the life goes on.
So I want to steer the conversation away from the financial aspects of it just a little bit. And when we talk about jobs in MSMEs, we are often talking about organizations that are founder-led. It is somebody whose vision it is or whose passion it is to run that organization. And the problem with founder-led organizations is that they may not be sufficiently participative, or they may also not be professional enough. Often when I see some of the pharma companies in Hyderabad, where I'm from, I observe that even basic principles of management have to be they often ignore them, and they don't see any value in implementing any of those things. And So I wonder how the ecosystem is going to handhold in terms of improving the professional running of these enterprises, because they may be small compared to the MNCs, but they are not exactly small. We are talking about 100 crore company. 100 crore project inside a large corporation would be very professionally run, but we seem to not have those expectations from these enterprises as of today. So, comments on that, sir?
See, you asked a very difficult question, but yeah, the truth of it's a reality that look, even the large run corporations are Lala companies. What is attributing to? So even if you have to make a financial decision, the someone will come and sit across, and the CFO will be just a namesake CFO. But you look, you have to learn from the journey. But whether you should be joining this journey or whether you should be joining these companies, I would say yes, you should be joining because you have to learn a lot from there. But at the same time, look, the infrastructure, or I would rather say there are startups or there are small MSMEs also coming, which are new age MSME companies, which are professionally driven, which is where the focus is on. So when you talk about these large established 200, 300 crore companies, this might be the companies which are run I would say that it's Lala companies where the promoter has the say in everything. Why that? You would, even if you go to a 5,000, 10,000 crore company, you might have a board, but at the end of the day, the Lala decides, the promoter decides. And that's a fact of the life. But we have to be choosy. We have to be choosy that when these companies might not be coming to the campuses also. So, but we have to be choosy because look, there is a dearth of talent. There's a dearth of right kind of talent, not only for these companies, but for the companies which are startups now, where you should be joining, where you should join. Or there are companies which have established, maybe started the journey 6, 7 years back, and they are on the on the growth path over there. So there will be many companies like that. So when just to give a classic example, I just come back again and again to my company that when we were started, when I was joining this company, I was told, because I come from an MNC background, all throughout 25 years in MNC, and this company was, the shareholders are all private sector banks and, the SIDBs and NSEs of the world, they were there. So I was told very clearly, friends have come and told me, why are you joining this company? This is a PSU company, why are you joining? You all have and I was asked the CEO of one of the institutions who are the promoters that Ketan, look, you come from an MNC background. Why you want to join this company? There are a lot many PSUs. But I said, look, I have an attitude to change, and if I am coming in the place over there, I can change. But that was at a different level altogether. But when you look at the other places also, there might be a perception, but is it possible for you to join and make that change? Today, what happens is it's the attitude which matters a lot. Even when you join a small institution, if you have the right attitude, if you have the right aptitude and the attitude, you get spotted. In our organization, we always spot the right people with the right attitude. I make the choice whether I have to take this person or whether I'll prefer a person with a 5 years experience or whether I'll prefer a person who's fresh out of the college, and whether the person has the right attitude to learn, because it's just on the job learning, because all the college learning, all the experience is just a waste. I would say it just takes you to a particular level. After that is the attitude of the person to take the job, and it's the organization also. So there are these new age MSMEs which are there. We should make a list of them. There are so many MSMEs we deal with. We have around 13,000 MSMEs registered with us. I'm in personal touch with many MSME founders and have seen the journey over the last 3 to 4 years. I find that these guys are making a lot of change, and they require talent. And today, unfortunately, what happens is when you talk about talent, people think attributed to say that if I am coming at this level, I should be getting this salary or that salary. But I always keep on telling, give an advice to the students, even when people, I tell them that look, what is important for you at this point of time? Is it experience or money? If it's experience, you should join this company. If it's looking out for money, this is not the right company for you to join. Because if you learn this from, and I'm telling from my experience that the experience which takes you is the attitude and the experience which, how to handle these situations or how to handle different departments. That is very important, I would say.
Yeah. So I shared one example how I left an global powerhouse and joined an MSME. With a lot of happiness and joy I shared, right? But I may not be able to share my exit with same happiness and joy. And the answer is the question put forwarded by Professor. So these are the challenges there, and these are on us, on you, on them, on me, on he, she, to take these challenges as change management, right? And as he said, I agree that it's okay to talk that you should work with MSMEs and in MSMEs, but then there are different aspects to that. I think one aspect that we may touch upon, even while you join a bank, I have seen this very up close and personal, right? If you are working with a bank and if you are serving the big boys, the large corporate, a mid corporate, your salaries are better. You are seen as better. And someone who is into MSME department, the same team looks down upon that MSME bank. Trust me, this is the burning issue that is happening all across the country, all across the globe. So, we may not tell you to just jump into MSME bandwagon or join anywhere. But job hunting is as science as arts. So you started with why we keep talking of China. For any good reasons. If you club both the exchanges here, and my answer is connected, that's why I'm touching this. We have got two SME exchanges, one of NSE and one of BSE, SME platforms. Clubbed together, we have less than 1,000 MSMEs listed. You know how many MSMEs are listed on Chinese exchanges? Close to 9,000. So they pose us every time. These Chinese people, despite everything, they pose so much of subject for us to deliver and deliberate upon. So if at all you think that yes, I may give it a try, go to these stock exchanges, figure out some of the SMEs which have been listed in last 5, 7, 10 years, see their turnover, see their movement, see their attrition rate, and the world has opened itself up. Talk to them, go and meet them. And I'm not just saying by fluke here. This is what being done by professionals today. They call Mr. Gaikwad for a cup of coffee, they'll request, and I'm sure 1 out of 5th time he may oblige, okay, come down. He'll understand, he'll learn, and if he thinks there is a window, he may very well request that here is my resume, you may please give a look. So that's what it is happening. 10% of the workforce is searching job this way. So this is one of the answers that may keep in mind. But that's the fact. The SME owners are pretty hard nut to crack, pretty stubborn of their own mindset. It could be due to various reasons. It could be due to his own journey, his own experiences. But these are right. These exist there.
So, speaking of SMEs and SME owners, I'm sure I will be, this is a question that is on the minds. I often hear this question from students a lot. So, one of the practices, and since we consider startups as part of MSMEs, one of the questions that is often asked is employee stock options. Are they doing what they are intended to do? And are they a good practice? Should we be worried about them? If I am a prospective candidate, should I stay away from employee stock options? And are employee stock options a way to attract better talent in the industry?
So for me, you forget of ESOP when you talk of MSME. You please forget that can be a possibility. That will never be a possibility. Unless you are touching the subset of MSME, that's startup based. So I haven't been a job hopper, right? So for me, ESOP is a good thing. It also, sometimes what happens at pretty young age, you have this thing in my mind, dekh lenge. Can I tell you that I have left my job thrice without having next offer? And you guys would look more of that. And what is that? You would look performance with purpose. You would look self-respect. Let me tell you that. So don't worry of those things. Keep that letter in your pocket. If you see that happening again and again and again, and you humbly pointing that out, don't take yourself for granted, especially if you have slogged to reach at IIMs.
I will just add on to that. See, ESOP is just one strategy of sharing the growth, right? And if you see the Indian culture, or especially how we have come along with MSMEs, and I'm sure you would have experienced in your own families also, right? That India as a culture believes in sharing of growth amongst the family, right? I know many MSMEs where if people are working, they take care of their kids' education, they distribute good handsome bonuses at certain milestones. They even you would have seen in media lately the story from a Surat-based diamond entrepreneur gifting away, so that's basically a growth sharing mechanism, right? So ESOP, considering in MSMEs, shareholding is somewhat related to ownership. So we see, some sort of resistance there in issuing ESOPs. Second, not many platforms were there earlier where you can go and get it listed. And today also there are not many platforms where you can trade private shares on a bilateral basis. But sharing of growth or collaboration with the employees has been a tradition in India, so it is nothing new. ESOP is just a subset of that. So as startups, that economics is very different. But MSMEs, one thing that I see as a challenge coming is the inability to delegate, right? If you happen to have MSME businesses in your families, most of the time you will see that the owner or the promoter or the family reserves lot of clerical stuff also to themselves, right? Who will sign the check, who will do the final recruitment, and that's the very point where they lose their ability to grow multifold because they don't delegate. So if you, as a job point of view, if you come across any MSME where they have laid down processes, they believe in delegation, and again coming back to the original point, and that is what the question where we started from, is how that ecosystem will grow. And I see lot of potential, lot of scope in getting into that ecosystem as a consultant, as an advisor, setting up your own consulting units, telling people to delegate. See, Haldiram was once a small halwai shop, right? How did they become Haldirams of today? Is that they standardized, there was somebody to guide off SOPs, there was somebody to assist them in hiring, in finance, and everything. Who all were they? Right? They were consultants, they were part of the ecosystem, and still huge scope lies in that ecosystem. So if you are thinking to get into that direction, do consider examining the available opportunities and educating, uplifting, upskilling the MSMEs. That is what is my take on that.
So I always tell, ESOP is a marketing gimmick, so don't get into that ESOP stuff. In fact, look at the promoters or the founders or the owners. ESOP के अलावा भी आप देखोगे MSME owners and promoters take care of their employees very well. Flexible working hours, loans, advances, festival breaks, lot of celebrations. So not many things MSMEs have been doing for their employees. Why do they do this? Because they also understand that we are not a large organization, we are a small family. It's very easy to take care of this small family by doing this small gestures. Just focus on that. ESOP, I always tell, is a marketing gimmick. Don't fall into that. Yes.
So it's a very interesting aspect. So look, I want to talk about it. When I joined this company 3 years back, 2019, I always thought that, look, I should be getting an ESOP. And when it went to the board said, no, this is not the right time. We are making losses and all that, so we should not have it. But now I have a different perspective all towards it. Look, ESOP is just a retention gimmick. It's just a retention gimmick. Because ESOP is something which you are not going to get it immediately. It just gets accumulated in your name. After 3 years or 5 years, it gets vested. What if the management is not good at all? I've seen so many cases where the top management people have left saying, I don't want to work, I don't care about the ESOPs. So ESOP is just a retention gimmick, I would say that. Look, but at the end of the day, what you should be looking at? What you should be looking at, whether the company has a long-term vision, whether the company has the capable management to take it to that vision, and how fast you can become a part of that management team. How can you share that dream? Because look, naturally things will fall in place. This ESOP, even I have not got an ESOP or whatever, although we have grown 5 times in the last year and we have become a profitable company. And I always end up saying that, because this is a, it opened my eyes. When we saw this 5-6, this FPOs, this IPOs coming in and getting listed and then getting bombed. These are classic cases of how things can happen. Because you don't, at the end of the day, you don't want to palm off some non-profitable companies to the corporate, to the customers or to the investors or the shareholders. At the end of the day, what is important for you? What is important for you? Because I always end up saying, when I'm talking to my team, I always say that, look, you should dream about it 5 years down the line where we will be. And if at all you are part of that journey for the 5 years, or even if you are not part of the journey, if you're standing outside and saying, look, I was a part of this company 5 years back or 10 years back or whatever, although I've contributed, I'm not there. But if you are there as a part of the journey, that journey itself is very important. And we are young, people are young, so you should not be looking at ESOPs and other things. This will come naturally. Because if the management is not good, retention, you will not want to stay back. Although you might be having lakhs and lakhs of uninvested or unvested ESOPs, and if the management is not, would you want to stay back and waste your time, waste your energy over there? No, you will want to move on. Whether ESOP should be a part of you to think that whether I'll get ESOPs and should I join the company. I narrated with an incident where I was also given the ESOP at that point of time. I said, no, I don't want to join that company. I remained with my MNC bank over there. But at the end of the day, I said it was a loss. But that's a fact of life, that you have to think whether the ESOPs really going to matter in the next 5 years, whether I'm going to be a part of the journey or whether I'll be different place altogether by getting that experience and working in a high performance culture. That's very important.
If there are any questions from the audience, we could, yes, let me take, I guess, Sanket's question. Yes, you have a mic with you. Yes, please.
Yeah, very good afternoon to all the eminent panels. I'm Kumar Sake. I'm studying in first year MBA. So, sir, I've heard the discussion carefully, and yeah, it's a fact that being a student, I have a loan of 18 lakh rupees. This is a fact. And within the span of 2 years, it's going to be like 23, 25-ish. So, it's not that I don't want to learn or I don't want to work in SME where I'm getting a greater exposure, but it's just I'm not able to do it. Because though this 25 lakh rupees day by day, as the loan rates are increasing day by day, you can see the condition of banks. So there, what to do? Like as we talk about the e-shops, there are uncertainties, you don't know what happened next. So with this kind of thing, as a student, if I do want to do, but still I can't. So how to deal with this?
I take this question because this is exactly the discussion which I had day before yesterday with another platform, and it's a MNC platform, and they were talking about that look, Ketan, where do you recruit people from? So I said, look, I recruit people from either we take it from the campus or we go into the institutions and go to the banks and private sector banks and do it. And exactly my business head was sitting next to me. She said that look, the management students are very keen that when they join an institute, they want to repay off the loan. Come on, I mean, look, you have full life across to you. 20 lakhs is nothing. If you keep that as an excuse and not join a high performing company and want to join a look, I have worked in MNC culture, I have worked in MNC banks, high profile banks, I have worked with the companies like that. So what is important is, again, it comes back to the same question. What is important for you? To learn, because this 18 lakhs loan or a 20 lakhs loan or a 25 lakhs loan is nothing, because tomorrow when you grow, you're going to take a housing loan also. Will that housing loan be a factor for you to decide that, okay, fine, now this company is paying so much, so I don't want to become an MSME because I'm getting a stable salary. It's not that. You have to consider the fact that, look, what are you going to learn? Which organization is going to be a part of it? Again, it comes back to the same question, whether you want to become a part of an institution where you're going to learn a lot in the next 2 or 3 years. And either, see, our dream is always that, look, when I talk about my organization, I said there should be 10 of us like us who can tomorrow go and build 10 companies. Now, that should be the organization which you should be looking at. Rather than thinking that I can join a big MNC bank, one, I can go abroad, two, or I can stay in here and do some things. And I have seen people who have left us. I'm coming back to the same example because I can quote very nearly and dearly. People who have left us, they've gone outside saying, look, there are in our organization, that organization, he would be doing a one-man show, he will be doing everything. In the other organization, there will be 20 more people doing the same thing what he is doing. Would you be interested in being a part of that? No, because it's a herd culture over there. There's a lot of politics, a lot of things which are there. So what is important is, I'm not saying that you should go for a very low, medium, this thing where your salary is also constrained and tomorrow it becomes a hindrance because your back salary is also considered for the next job. But what is important is, whether you have the right kind of attitude and whether you have it in you to take that next step.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Anand?
Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm a PhD student here in IIM Amritsar in economics area. So my question is, as far as making funding available for MSMEs is concerned, should equity-led funding or bank-led funding, which one should lead the way? If at all, one of them should be made the primary source of thrust to fund MSMEs, because as Prakalp was mentioning that we are not listing adequate MSMEs in India compared to China. But the one possible issue could be that, as Mukesh ji and Ms. ji were mentioning, that as equity comes in more and more, and the companies will get more and more corporatized and professionalized. So it will move away from the family led or family styled management, and that would have its own consequences. So we should lead the way, if one should lead. Thank you.
Yes, try to respond. See, one challenge that we face generally is that banks in India, which are primarily mandated to fund at least early stage MSMEs, are somehow not trained, or rather I would say mandated to take calls on very high risk startups, right? The classic case that we have been doing is a lot of technologies are now, say for example, we were at a drone summit. A lot of excellent ideas were there, but the same question was asked there also, that how do we fund it, right? So one is that a very simple vanilla answer is that if you are trying to build something which is purely a manufacturing entity, or which has a established industry, you are not doing something very innovative, I would always prefer it getting debt funded initially, because you don't end up losing your ownership, and you always have that choice. We are seeing SME companies, 20-30 years old companies getting listed now, right? So you always have that choice, whether to invest to strategic investors or to go public, or at early stage. But again, that scope to get debt funded is very limited. So unless you are into something very innovative, or something which you are trying to develop as a technology or as a product which has not a established market, you have no choice to but seek some equity or grants, or get it funded that way. But else, if you are doing into a core sector, you always have various avenues to fund your initial life life cycle of the project.
Thank you.
So just to add, every businessman would do its swap analysis. जब उसे इक्विटी फंडिंग लेना होता है या जब उसे बैंक से फंडिंग लेना होता है, so there's nothing wrong in it, whether you take equity or you are ready to dilute your stake and give a stake to a strategic investor or a financial investor, or on the other side you take a fixed bank loan with paying your EMI at 9-10% whatever rate of interest that you are getting. The important is, are the investor ready to invest in your SME or MSME? Is my company profitable? Is my company to that extent ready where I showcase my company's growth to the investor, and would that investor be ready to invest in my company? So investors, when you look at investors, they would look at more than the company, they would look at the promoters. What's their vision is, how they have been growing in last 3-5 years, and what's their next move, how are they going to upscale in next 5-7 years. Whatever amount that you plan to raise either through equity or bank, bank is also even going to question, if you are going to raise 5 crores from bank as a loan, where and how are you going to use these funds, and how this is going to help your company grow much better than where you are currently at this stage. Same is with the investors also, who would come with us an equity. They will also ask you, where are you going to deploy this funds which you are trying to raise through equity, because they will also look at what assurance and guarantee that you are going to give to that investor. So that investor would also need that confidence from the promoter or the co-founders team, and then based on that assurance, based on that data, they will come and invest in your company. So bank funding is equally tough. Equity investment, bringing equity investment is also equally tough.
Thank you.
Last question. Yes, please. Lady in front. Can you pass on the mic to her? Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, sir. I'm Meghna, and I am a first-year student at IIM Amritsar. So, like we have discussed about the various challenges, I think one of the important challenge that MSMEs also face is with regards to the employee loyalty. We have discussed about delegation of work, but in most of the situations, what happens is, let's say the head of the company, when he delegates certain responsibilities to the lower people, they often cheat because of the less professionalism and standardization in the MSME sector. So how do you think a right balance can be achieved in such situations?
So unfortunately, I think you teach organization behavior in HR. Our management institutes in this country, we have had very fancy subjects. We have never gone under the carpet. Though these are very personal things, these you inherit from your family, right? You inherit from people that you look up to. However, I believe, and if I look back to my journey, I had some amazing teachers, right? So during my orientation program, the gentleman who survived the dot-com bubble, Mr. Bhik Chandani, Naukri.com, he said, do whatever, never leave humanity. That line still, I'm getting goosebumps. So this line stays with me. Though no management campus can teach this, but I wish there are more of these subjects, case studies, right? I was doing one project on sales. I predominantly am a sales background person. When I went on to meet one gentleman of tire company heading sales, and I was doing a project re-engineering of HR into sales. You know what he told to us? He told us, no, we don't need HR in sales. How big statement this is. Can you really think of a company having mediocre HR? So these are very personal things. This touches to your lifestyle. So this panel cannot answer it. Only you have to answer this. Are you ready to do that? Are you there to defy things? Are you ready to rewrite your story for throughout the life? that whenever that person meets you again, he looks into your eyes and you are able to respond back. So that's the answer that I give.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, gentlemen, for a very insightful conversation. It was engrossing. I certainly learned a thing or two. It was a it was a window into the world of MSMEs. So I think now is a good time to conclude this session. I've been asked to end at 12:30 sharp because there's another session that's supposed to start at 1:30. So thank you so much. Thank you so much for coming here.
Thank you.
We would like to thank Professor Ravishankar Komu, Mr. Ketan Gaikwad, Mr. Prakalp M. Jain, Mr. Mukesh Jagwani, and Mr. Avinash Chand for this thought-provoking session, which surely helped us insights on the topic. With this note, we conclude the discussion for the first panel. Now we'll be having a lunch break from 12:30 to 1:15, followed by the next panel discussion on innovation, MSME, and startup ecosystem, interplay of enablers and deterrents, sharp at 1:30. Thank you.